Today I'm at the YouTube space in LA. We're doing a screening for The Forest with the lead actor doing a question and answer, basically about acting. Hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit of footage about what it is to be an actress or actor. What I'm going to do is provide various links in this video with all of the various different opportunities and acting workshops, free online and resources for actors and actresses. And hopefully we get some good feedback today from the lead character in this particular film, which is being screened at YouTube today on a Wednesday. The lead actress is also known for some films in Game of Thrones, as one of the princesses of of the lead character. I recognize her from some of the footage I've seen in Game of Thrones. Again, this is Mike at a rainy day in southeast LA. Thanks a lot.
Fancy, guys. All right.
Sorry guys, I look a bit overdressed. I was just at the People's Choice Awards.
She's like, I'm dressed wrong, not you. And you guys, as we're chatting too, if you have any questions, we'll get to a point where we'll take some questions from the audience as well. So make sure you're thinking about some of those. But first, I just want to talk about, obviously I mentioned some of the other projects that you've done, and this one is totally different. What was it about this film that made you get really excited about being a part of it?
Well, I was looking for an opportunity to helm a feature. I'd already done it on stage and on TV, so I was looking for my first lead in a feature film. And when I got the script for The Forest, I was just really taken by the psychological elements of it. Yes, it's a horror, but it's a psychological horror. And these thriller suspense elements I loved so much. And I love David Escoyer's original premise, which was, imagine a place where you go and have your deepest demons reflected back at you. The stuff we repress, suppress, regret, because we all have that shit.
It's true.
So
hopefully not quite as dark as
Jess and Sarah, but I was fascinated by the idea of playing twins, but they seem textbook. You know, the overachiever, the woman with the house, the car, the husband, everything, the strong one, inverted commas, and then the wild child. And I just loved the premise, the symmetry of it, that ultimately you question whether it's the wild child that's the stronger human being because she's looked at the dark stuff and faced and is in contact with her emotions.
And then obviously getting to play twins, if you had to pick one that you're a little more similar to, which one would it be? Or do you share qualities with both of them?
Yeah, as you say, Tiffany, with every character you play, there are qualities that you bring to every character that are you. I'm more emotionally connected with myself the way Jess is, but there are probably some overachiever qualities of Sarah and me as well. So.
And I kind of just talking about character, obviously The Forest becomes a character in itself in this movie. And I know that you guys shot exteriors and some of that stuff there, but you didn't film the whole movie there, but you visited. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience in The Forest?
Yes, we shot the first week of principal photography in Japan. So I went up for one day with my other half and my driver and our guide that had been allocated to us, and we went up to Fuji. It's really beautiful up there. It's stunning, lush, gorgeous countryside, and it's a very sacred, spiritual place to the Japanese. And it was a beautiful day, the birds were singing, families were hiking. The only thing that sort of makes it incongruous is you do see these, as you saw in the movie, these ropes tied off and the tape tied off, that as you are driving along around the forest, you see disappear into the density of the forest. And then every now and then, as you see in the movie, you see signs up with helplines on them. So I didn't feel like eerie or freaky, or more than anything, I just felt a compassion and a sadness, because it really hits you that people do go there to make that choice.
Had you heard anything about Aokigahara before you came onto this project? Or was this kind of your first intro to everything?
Strangely, I hadn't. I really don't know how that passed me by. I was completely unaware of the forest and this association that it has.
So crazy. How crazy did that look for you guys, seeing all that stuff? For me, I was like, I went for a hike this morning, which was probably the worst decision I could have made. And in my mind, I just kept hearing, stay on the path, stay on the path. And I wasn't even in Japan. So.
I mean, has anybody here seen the Vice documentary? There's it's a really great documentary, and it's short. That's like it's a good intro to it. Yeah, when you start really thinking about it, you know, the filmmakers of this movie have no intention about being flippant about suicide. You know, completely the opposite. In what we were doing, especially in playing two sisters that love each other deeply, we were trying to communicate the emotional truth of what you do when someone you really, really love, you fear is not mentally happy. You know, so I know that there's the bumps and the scares, but there is no intention to sensationalize the tragedy that is suicide at all.
Well, and you talk about obviously going to the forest and having that reverence there and that feeling of this is a really sacred place and there is a lot of thought that goes into it. How do you feel like they transferred that into the set when you guys were shooting? Was that vibe kind of there for you as well?
So,
just the feeling that you got when you were in Okigahara and that reverence and just feeling the weight of it, and then filming on set because you guys didn't film the major parts of the film in that forest.
Sure, but we had quite a lot of Japanese actors, or we were very, having spent a week there, the best thing we could have done, it never happens in movies, but the first thing we did was had the gift of shooting this film pretty much in chronological order. And that was chosen for a number of reasons. It was chosen because of the budget, and it made sense for a continuity purpose, that as the breakdown happens of blood and guts and dirt, that it would be easier for us to follow. And then also it was done also in the hope to help me in the emotional continuity of it. And it was a pure gift, it never happens. But what it meant was the first week we were in Japan. And so we were able to talk to the local community, talk to Japanese, talk about the forest. And then we had Japanese actors that were with us again in Serbia. So we weren't ignoring the native culture of this script, you know, absolutely not.
And then you talk about the fact that obviously the character goes through an incredible journey throughout this film. What was that like for you as an actress? Because towards the beginning you get to trust a couple people, and then as the film goes on, it's more and more on your own.
Yeah, I mean, it's catnip to an actor to play this kind of role, because we all want to go crazy and really push ourselves into the darkness. That's ultimately what all actors really want to do, if they're worth their salt. You know, it's the descension into madness, it's Blanche de Bois, it's Hamlet, it's Lear, it's like, you know, that's what you want to do. And as a female actor, as an actress, it's all very liberating when the last thing on your mind is what you look like, and that you can just literally let the demons come out and cathartically vent. So I got so carried away with that answer, I forgot what your question was. Just about getting into it, and it just vent, throw yourselves in holes, run through forests screaming, purge your pain, you know, from your inner childhood. I mean, it's just a big emotion horse, basically.
Is it hard just to kind of bounce back and be around people on set then? Because obviously, Taylor Kinney is one of the other stars of this film, and you guys have a lot of scenes together, but a lot of it towards the end is there's not a really trusting relationship between the two of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I love Taylor's performance in this so much. We had so much fun. He plays Aidan. We had the conversation about it, because he plays Aidan a little bit how I play the scene at the end. We shot that for 3 days. And we just had, it was like doing a play for those 3 days, that dialogue between us. We just had a lot of fun.
It definitely came across in the film. How many of you guys trusted Aidan? Did you guys trust him? No. Did you go back and forth? Because that's what happened to me. I was like, he's too cute. So basically, if you're a cute guy, you're going to trust him, is what he's saying. You might not want to end up in the forest. And, you know, obviously you do a film like this. It's a little bit different being on set for a horror film, obviously, than watching it back. But were there any kind of creepy moments or moments where you got scared on set?
No, sorry. Really disappointing answer, right? Shooting a horror movie is not very scary the way shooting a sex scene is not very sexy. It's very much down to choreography. Because you want to hit your mark right, and you want to get the timing right. I mean, we had an amazing cinematographer called Matthias Trollstrop, and he did all the Steadicam with me. And like when you, for instance, when you have the reveal of Hoshiko standing in the bushes, you know, we would be running, and then Matthias is trying to pan round me, and so he's trying to land the camera on her. Rena, the actress, at the same time as I see her and my shoulder jumps. You're trying to sit, and then you want the light, you want the spark to, the electrician to hit the light at the same moment, so you see her. It's like fiddly timing like that, to get the timing, how I imagine actually in its specificity that maybe comedy has to be. I haven't done a comedy yet, but setting it up and then the payoff. So I was actually quite surprised how technical horror filming turned out to be honest with you.
How much fun is it for you then to get to see the audience's reaction and hear how they've experienced the film? Because there are definitely a lot of jump moments, which I'm sure you guys know in the script when you're reading it that they're going to come across, but maybe some surprise ones too.
Yeah, I was at the screening last night at the Soho House, and you know, people jumped and screamed, and that was fantastic. I mean, I jumped in places. I'm an idiot. Like, come on, girl, you knew that scare was coming. Like, yeah, but they edited it slightly, blah blah blah. But I actually jumped, so I'm a fool.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question. What kind of horror film watcher are you? Because last night I posted on Instagram, but I literally watched the film with my scarf up to here and my hand kind of over my face like the entire time. Are you that kind of watcher, or are you like, I'm just going to embrace this, I'll have the jumps when they happen?
You know, it's actually more effective to cover your ears and not your eyes when you're watching a horror movie. You know, I'm telling you, it's true. If you have an other half who drags you to horror movies and you don't like doing it, the secret is your hearing and not your eye, because you can disengage in a way, and obviously the music and the soundscape, the way it's designed, is often what the build and is what's winding you up. So stick your fingers in your ears next time, babe.
Dang it. All right, I'll do that on the next horror film that I watch. Do you have any favorite kind of genre of horror film? This one, obviously, like you said, is a lot more psychological.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not really. I'm a wimp. Like you. So.
Thanks for that.
I don't. When I enjoy all filmmaking of every genre. I wouldn't call myself like a horror fanatic, but when I do watch a horror movie, I like a good psychological horror. So I think the Spanish and the Hispanic cultures do it very well. I don't know if it's their magic realism and their heritage or what it is, but so Guillermo del Toro, some of the things he produces, or you know, The Orphanage, or you know, Julia's Eyes. I love those psychological horrors. And we do it too, well, The Others would be one. I actually enjoyed It Follows that was out last year as well, so I go for the psychological ones.
And then obviously you've done a lot of different characters. Can you talk a little bit about how different it is playing someone like Marjorie versus Jess and Sarah versus your character from Hunger Games?
Yeah, obviously every role brings different challenges, and I suppose the one thing I noticed the most with Sarah, having now watched the movie and being asked about it, is in recent years I've played characters that seem to be quite in control of themselves. Although if you watch season 6, that might well change. But Marjorie is up to this point very in control of herself, and Cressida was of course very in control of herself, and Anne Boleyn until her demise. And some of I've been gifted with playing women who are struggling with their fear or their anxiety, but maintain control.
A little bit calculating.
Yeah, well, yeah, just, yeah, disciplined in controlling themselves. I played Gone Crazy on stage, and it was wonderfully liberating, but not for that was about 3 years ago. So to play someone who is completely losing the plot was a lot of fun and cathartic and liberating for me after a while.
Awesome. All right, you guys, well, let's take some questions for you guys. You're ready. We got a question up here in the front. They're just running the mic over for you. What's your name and what's your question? Oh, we got to turn it on. Technical difficulties. You're good. Go for it.
So, I like the movie so far. It was really great. My question is, what you call it? On the scene where you're like holding your phone, like I saw on the movie that it was on during the whole time. It's like, oh, the scene. I was wondering. I was like, huh. It's like, I wonder what's the percentage is. If you had to guess what percentage it is throughout the end of the movie, what would it be right now?
Or would she have imagined that it was at 100% still? You never know what the force would make her see.
Point to observe a question. You're telling me I just promoted like iPhone for an entire movie. I didn't get paid? No, it's funny you say that actually, because I started complaining to the director about like repetitive strain of holding my arm like this. Because I spend so much of the movie, like, because it's the only light source, and this was going back to the DP, the cinematographer, Matthias Trollström, was standing in a dark forest. He's like, well, Natalie, so, that's my bad Danish accent. He's like, we've only got the moon and the iPhone light, so no pressure, but if you don't put the light in the right place, you're going to fuck up the shot. So, it's like I felt a great weight of responsibility, and I think that phone did. So I don't know. It was the magically never-ending battery that phone.
Well, that was one of the things I loved about this movie too. Is you always see horror films, and there's moments where you're like, really, that just happened? And when he tells her that he found the cabin, and she's like, really, you just happened to find that? I love that because I think you need that kind of moment in horror where you're like, you realize what is going on in this film, which is really fun. Who do we have next? Right over here, these two guys.
Hey guys, thank you for being here. First off, my favorite Moriarty ever in the history of Sherlock adaptations.
Oh, thank you.
She's awesome in Elementary, you guys. Second of all, this is an incredibly physical movie. You're running, you're falling, you're tripping. How challenging was all of that while you were filming? Because I gotta say that was pretty badass, so, you know, just saying.
Yeah, thank you. It's true. It was a very physical shoot. Again, this harks back to what I was saying about shooting it in sequence was very helpful because I did get more and more tired during the 34-day shoot, and as I looked rougher and rougher, the makeup artist didn't need to apply the bags under my eyes. They were naturally there. So it really helped me that I was physically, life was imitating art, that I was getting more and more tired. I mean, I run, I'm a jogger, my cardiovascular level is quite high. So, but that was like really intense interval training, and I hate interval training. So yeah, it's like, it was a bit, hey, like I said, the camera crew were running backwards when I was running forwards. So they had it worse than me.
And our next one right in front there.
Hi, so my name is DeAndre, and I know you probably get handed a lot of projects. What set this one apart that you were like, I want to do this one? Like, what's made this stand out?
Because I found, well, firstly, how often do you see a central relationship that's based on sibling love? You know, to me it was very refreshing that it wasn't a romantic-centered relationship, and then that was two women in a genre movie. That immediately grabbed my attention. And then, like I said before, it felt like a three-dimensional, fleshed-out female protagonist. They're thin on the ground, you know? Especially when you're at the rung I'm at, and not like on my co-star Jennifer Lawrence's rung, you know? There's only so many scripts out there. So I just thought it was a really well-written script, and I wanted to do horror at some point, but to me that was almost irrelevant. It was about the writing.
Well, I think what's cool about this character and this film too is that she's not a damsel in distress. She's kind of the villain / horror thing at the same time, so you get to play both sides of that, which is really, really cool. And we have a question right over here.
Thank you, so I'm William. I wanted to know how the technicality interferes with the fact to get emotional on set, because you know, like you were saying earlier, you're tripping. There's a lot of technicality in the angles and stuff to make the jump scare. So I was wondering how you deal with that as an actor to not interfere with your acting and stay truthful.
Yeah, I mean it's a really good question, William, because it was complicated at moments. It really was. And you know, as an actor, you struggle with that on one level or another on a daily basis. You know, when you're standing on a set, you've got to hit your mark so that the focus puller can get you in focus, whether you're saying a speech or throwing yourself down a sinkhole. You know, and it was just like a heightened version of that. The beautiful thing about, so basically, I'm being inarticulate. It always happens. It was just an extreme version of it when you're trying to think about two things at once. That's part of what an actor's job is, I'm sure you know. I was really lucky. One of the joys about being a lead is you bond with your crew, because you're day in, day out, constantly in front of the camera, and you learn a shorthand with them that you don't always have when you're a member of an ensemble cast. And so I just became so tight with my crew that if I needed help with something, if I needed them to back the F off because I couldn't, often they would go, you know what, don't worry about the light, we'll just take care of it. If you don't hit that mark, we'll work it out. When I really, really needed them, for instance, when I fall down the sinkhole and I basically have a breakdown, I mean, my crew really supported me. They were like, technically, we're going to take care of it, you just do your thing. So, and actually it's a good point, because sometimes I think too much. I have to turn that part of my brain off. It's because I'm with a director and I just, you know, I get pretentious and think I know too much about how it all works. I should just concentrate on doing my job.
You learn more and more from each film. I'm sure it definitely is a benefit to you that you do think about both sides of things too, on some level. We have time for one more question over here.
This is kind of a dark question. In terms of suicide, though, I was wondering, obviously it plays subconsciously maybe a big role in the movie, and your character, Sarah, do you feel at the end that she chose to die, or was she tricked to die? Just something that I was just wondering about, actually.
I hope everyone else in this room has a different opinion, and everyone can talk about it in the car on the way home. Because is the forest a malevolent thing, or is it just she did it? It just has the power to reflect yourself back at you, and therefore, as one of the Japanese characters says, you do it to yourself. The ambiguity and ambivalence of certain plot points. Did Aidan, even if he wasn't a bad guy, did he meet Jess at some point? I think there's lots of little alleyways you can go down in this film. Who wants a definitive answer from a feature? You know, who wants a definitive answer from a story? I know you don't. That's why you asked the question. So, you know, I am a massive believer in audience sophistication and subjectivity. I think you give the story to the audience, and it's up to them to do what they want with it. You know.
I was more wondering, though, in terms of you and
you asking me personally, my choice.
Yeah, your choice, or in terms of like, you know, working with the director, or like, what was the point of view? It might also have implications on, like, you know, not that it has a message or anything, but like, you know, how you portray suicide or that kind of thing in a movie. I was just wondering if that was a conversation you had or something you were thinking about.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, you are very eloquently pointing out the reason I took the movie is because it has multiple layers. You want to go to a horror movie and just have a good fright, a good scare, you can get that from this movie. You want to think more sensitively about self-identity, your own emotions, and your relationship with your own psyche and yourself, and you can go there with this story. I mean, I know that I had a different opinion to the director in places, and some of the producers in places, and the writer in places. I think the fact that we had different opinions, subjective opinions about different plot points, actually in the end nurtured it, because the ambiguity is therefore there in places for you guys to claim it how you want. I think it was a very collaborative experience making this movie. One of the most collaborative that I've ever had. So, sorry, I didn't really give you a direct answer. I don't want to tell you my actual personal choice, because it doesn't override everyone else's, you know?
That's what a good piece of art does, though. It leaves it open to you interpreting it and filtering it through your process and your eyes. So that's, I kind of think, what she's trying to say, to leave you with that, to let you guys get to do that. So thank you guys all so much for coming out tonight for this awesome Q&A. Huge thank you to Natalie. Thanks, guys. And make sure you guys go see the movie on Friday. Tell your friends and use the hashtag #TheForestIsReal. Thank you guys so much.